My name is Olivia.
I'm 35 years old. I've known my husband Nick since our college days, and we've been together for about 15 years, including the time we dated. Both Nick and I are still working at the company we joined after graduation. Both of us working makes life easier. The more income, the easier life gets. Let's do it. I agreed with Nick's words and chose to keep working after we got married. I didn't hesitate because I didn't want to waste my hard-earned career. There was also another proposal that came soon after we got married. Things at home might get tough with both of us working, right? What do you think about living with the parents? I immediately accepted the proposal. I'm delighted. I want to live with your dad and mom, and with Lola too, right? Yay! Y'all really get along well, don't you? Even dad and mom and Lola. She talks about wanting a sister in front of me. I wish she would consider my position a little. I had established a good relationship with Nick's family during courtship. Every time I went to visit, they welcomed me with a smile, and we often went out together. So I never doubted them until we got married and lived together. I was looking forward to becoming a family after marriage. There was not a single thing that made me anxious. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I turned off the alarm on my smartphone and got out of bed. I quickly got dressed and headed to the kitchen. As I put on my apron, I boiled water, took out bacon and eggs from the refrigerator for breakfast, and continued preparing for the morning. When I put the morning paper that I had taken from the mailbox on the desk, my father-in-law came downstairs from the second-floor bedroom. Good morning. Good morning. I'll prepare the coffee. My father-in-law nodded and sat down at the dining table. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and he always goes to work before 7 because he starts early. He's a high-ranking executive at a major company, famous even at my company for being skilled. However, at home, he's only quiet and never acts high and mighty. That was delicious. When he finishes eating, he always brings his dishes to the sink. At first, when he brought them carefully, I told him, "You can leave them there." "It's all right. Let me do at least this much," he responded. He doesn't talk much, and we rarely have a chance to chat, but I think he's a very kind person. It's been almost 6 years since we started living together like this, and everything has gone as planned with only my father-in-law. At 6:45 in the morning, Lola would come stomping down the stairs from the second floor. "Oh, I'm sleepy." "Good morning, Lola." However, Lola ignored my greeting. She came to check the kitchen as is. "Ugh, I was in the mood for cereal today." "Oh, I'm sorry, I made pancakes today." I knew what was going to happen next. Ignoring my explanation just like she ignored my greeting, Lola started throwing all the pancakes I had worked hard to make into the trash. "Okay, let's make them again." Lola dumped the empty plate in the sink as if to tell me to wash it. From the first day of our marriage and living together, I received a harsh invitation into my role as a wife. And it wasn't only Lola. "Yuck, yuck, what's this? You didn't make pancakes?" At 7 o'clock in the morning, my mother-in-law would slowly wake up. Nick would casually wake up as a result of this, but "I'm sorry. Just cooperate, would you? You're going to make everyone's breakfast late." I'd initially complained that Lola had thrown the pancakes in the trash, but it seemed that my protest fell on deaf ears. Upon sitting there and settling gleeful grins, I realized I had been tricked. On my very first day, I already wanted to quit this co-living arrangement, but I thought given time they'd come around. However, even after 6 years, nothing had changed. I felt utterly helpless. Adding insult to injury, my very own husband, the key person in all this, masterfully ignored the whole situation. I had consulted with Nick in our first year of marriage, but all he'd done was dismiss my concerns, saying, "I'm sure they have their reasons." I never grasped what he meant. Even after repeated complaints, all he did was shift the blame, telling them exactly what I said. "Olivia doesn't like it, so you should stop." That was when I realized he wasn't just lacking tact. He simply didn't care about anyone but himself. Of course, the harassment from my daughter-in-law didn't end there. I ate my breakfast standing up, snatching bites while doing other chores, leaving no time to sit down and enjoy my meal. While having breakfast, I tidied up, did laundry, and cleaned the house. Then right after I finished, it started. "On your way back, could you pick up some snacks? Oh, and if you're going shopping, could you get my makeup too?" Needless to say, they never offered any help. The reason I wake up at 5 a.m. is because I still have a job. Preparing for the morning and making lunch ahead took quite a bit of time. I left the house at 8 a.m. every morning. Of course, my leisurely mother-in-law and the home help, Lola, didn't even bother to see me out. It's been 6 years. I've gotten used to it, but every morning I left for work, I whispered to myself, "This isn't what I signed up for." I work as an office administrator. My office hours end at 6 p.m., but often I end up working an extra hour or two. At first I used to work overtime regularly. However, I was constantly harangued by calls to my office. "Is my daughter-in-law there? Can she stop working overtime?" As a result, I felt bad for causing inconvenience to my colleagues and superiors, and unless it was absolutely essential, I was allowed to bring work home. Usually, I got home around 7 p.m. Nick typically returned home by 8 p.m., so the first thing I had to do was prepare dinner for my mother-in-law and Lola and finish the laundry. "Can't you come home earlier? The laundry's not done yet." Of course, I didn't lift a finger to help. Neither did Lola. You can't even manage the household chores properly. I've been yelled at and even had my dinner withheld. In these cases, I still had to prepare meals for everyone else in the family. After they finished eating, they wouldn't carry their dishes and demanded coffee in the living room. I was left to clean up the dishes, prepare coffee, and run around. Nick would arrive midway through, but he never helped me out. Pasta today? I was in the mood for pizza. Huh? What's up? Are you in a bad mood today? No, just eat your food. Alrighty. Even Nick's small remarks were getting on my nerves. After Nick and the other two had fallen asleep, I still needed to stay awake. I had to complete household chores and then finish up my work brought from the office. What should I do? At this rate, I might not be able to finish on time. Maybe I'll just do as much as I can now and continue during my lunch break tomorrow. I'm home. Father-in-law, welcome home. I apologize. I'll prepare dinner right away. I was so absorbed in my work, I didn't notice father-in-law had returned home, but he simply replied, "No, I'll take a shower first," and went into the bathroom. In the meantime, I tidied up my laptop and started preparing the meal. Once father-in-law finished eating, I cleaned up everything and went to bed. It was already 1 a.m., which was relatively early for me. The following day, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and start another busy day. Then, one day, I collapsed at work. One morning, as I was walking around the office, I suddenly felt dizzy and fell. Thankfully, I didn't lose consciousness, and after resting in the break room, I felt a bit better. My boss told me to take it easy and gave me the afternoon off. Well, isn't it unusual for you to be home at this hour? Yeah, I wasn't feeling well. Is it just an excuse? What? Come on, you look perfectly fine to me. It's not good for an adult to use sickness as an excuse to slack off, you know. You need to work harder. I couldn't even muster the energy to be angry at their laughter and nonchalant attitude. I never had high expectations, but their insensitive words made me feel worse than angry. My body just instinctively rejected them, and I found it hard to breathe. So you can put more effort into dinner today, right? Of course, right. You've got time. We've been putting up with your quick and easy meals. You should treat us when you have the time. On that day, my husband, just like mother-in-law Lola, came home expecting a homemade meal because I had the afternoon off. He didn't think about why I got off early or showed any concerns. As a result, I ended desperately cooking steak, getting constant complaints like, "Could you cook it a bit more? Don't you have any sausages? We don't need vegetables." I had reached my limit. What? You're quitting your job? I had decided to quit my long-time job. I thought that if I focused only on housework, things might get a bit easier. I can't do this anymore. We should be able to manage with Nick's salary, right? I'm finding it hard to balance work and house chores. No, that's a bit unrealistic. At my husband's words, laughed out and saying it's unrealistic, I turned pale. What? Why is it unrealistic? Because we two are contributing $1,500 to the household expenses every month, right? It'll be difficult to do that with just my salary. Well, can we maybe reduce that? I think Mom would probably say no. Well, if it's not possible, it's not possible. Just try a little harder. The sight of Nick patting my shoulder and smiling, I had never hated him more. I thought it was pointless to talk to him anymore, but it seemed like fate was on my side. The company I worked for was downsizing due to poor performance. I had the option to seek assistance for the next job placement for my company or even stay, but I chose to resign immediately. Huh? You're leaving because the company is doing poorly? Yes, that's why I'll be focusing on household chores from now on. I told Nick, who had just returned from work, that I had resigned from the company. I knew it was somewhat forceful, but I felt it was the only way to make him pull his weight. However, when mother-in-law and Lolo, who were along with Nick, heard the news, they became livid. Are you out of your mind? What about the money? If you're working, it's going to be hard on Nick. I won't allow any cutbacks. But there are things I just can't do besides juggling household chores, and work was exhausting. I believe this is a good opportunity for me. No, but you said it's impossible. We need at least $2,000 to get by. I think you can manage. After all, $2,000 is just for living expenses. Honestly, I don't believe the utilities alone can cost that much. I was under the impression that the $2,500 I was providing every month was going towards living expenses, and there had to be room for savings. Even though they adamantly said it was impossible, I believed the amount could fluctuate, as it was not a fixed cost. Then I was told an unbelievable fact by mother-in-law. My head hurts. You thought that was just for living expenses? Then what are you spending it on? I thought it was all going to mother-in-law and Lowe's living expenses. Let me be clear. Isn't it obvious that we need to cut back there? You're asking us to tighten our belts? What kind of wife are you? The $1,500 come from the paycheck, doesn't it? Yes, it does. The $1,500 every month was all being transferred from my account to father-in-law's. When I discussed it with Nick, we decided to handle all the payments from my salary. It was simpler to manage everything from one salary. That money, it's not for living expenses, but for the mortgage payment on the house. What? A mortgage? That includes some home improvements, so the mortgage payment is $1,500 a month. That's a fixed cost. It can't be changed. Hold on a minute. That kind of expense was supposed to be managed with father-in-law's salary. Haha, what a waste. Why should we use Nick's money when we have our own to spend freely, especially when we have a wife who's like a wallet? I was dumbfounded to be referred to as a wallet. It seemed like they didn't think of me as a wife, but merely as a source of money to exploit. And watching mother-in-law and Lila's laugh uproariously at this reality, I could confirm that Nick, with his calm smile, was just as guilty. Well, but Mom, she quit her job and doesn't have an income anymore, right? Shouldn't we get rid of her quickly? Yes, let's do that. We're under no obligation to take care of you, nor do we need to provide you with a place to stay. Wait a minute. Well, Mom's right. Sorry, Olivia. You'll need to move out until you find a job. Nick! I couldn't believe what my husband was saying to me with a smile. But the three of them, ignoring my shock, slowly pushed me towards the front door. I was too stunned to resist and found myself locked out. You don't deserve a free meal. Come back when you can pay for yourself. An unemployed wife should get lost. Bombarded with harsh words through the front door, I felt too weak to resist and walked away slowly. They didn't even let me take my stuff. All I had was the smartphone in my pocket. I thought about using it while it was charged, but in reality, the last place I would turn to for help, my family's home, was the reason I couldn't choose to divorce despite all that had happened. After walking a little in the residential area at night, as expected, a call came in from my mom. Hello? You're not thinking about coming back home, are you? Our house is in the country. It would be a hassle if you came back. Apologize properly to your in-laws. You're not allowed to come back here. Nick probably called my parents' house. He knew what kind of people my parents were. That's why I was looking forward to living together when I was being deceived. I believed they would care about me more than my own family. What should I do now? Before I knew it, I was sitting blankly on a bench in the local park. It was 9 o'clock. I needed to decide my next move soon. But my wallet. Remembering that I had left my bag with my wallet inside, I reluctantly decided to sneak back to the house. I was anxious about what might be happening at home and was secretly watching from outside when someone approached from behind. That person quietly handed me my bag. It was my father-in-law, who had found my bag at the front door after coming home from work. Several weeks had passed since I left home. During that time, there seemed to have been trouble at the in-laws' house. Where is Olivia? Come back. Come back, hurry! Hey, where are you really? I chose not to block messages, but I ignored all the notifications. I didn't feel like replying, but I was also busy at the time, so I deliberately left them hanging. A month later, I mailed divorce papers to be filled out. I also hired a lawyer referred to by my father-in-law and claimed a refund of the $99,000 for the house mortgage that I had been paying for 5 years and 6 months at a rate of $1,500 per month. I also added a small claim for compensation in the divorce proceedings against the three of them. Immediately, Nick started calling me like a demon, so I had no choice but to answer. What's with that lawyer? I won't accept a divorce. Well, let's settle in court then. Goodbye. Wait, I'm in a tough situation. Please withdraw the claim. Mom has also been served divorce papers by Dad, and he said she could do whatever she wants with the house. Mom said she wants to stay here. Why don't you support her then? That's the hard part. That's why I'm saying please come back. No way. Why should I go back to such a hell? I couldn't hide my irritation as I listened to my husband's selfish claims. And right now, the parents' house is the worst situation. It's become like a garbage dump because no one's doing the chores properly. Why don't you do the chores then? That's your job as my wife. Then how about paying me for the housework? It's $12 per hour, from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., and from 7 p.m. to midnight. I'll do the housework if you can pay me monthly for these hours. You're out of your mind. There's no way I'm paying you for that. It's a wife's job to handle the housework. There's no paycheck for household tasks. My father-in-law did pay me. What? On the day I was kicked out, my father-in-law, who had handed me my bag, bowed his head deeply to me. I'm really sorry. I warned him several times, but I never thought it would come to this. Father-in-law, I know about your parents' house, Olivia. I feared that something like this might happen eventually. With those words, my father-in-law asked me to wait in front of the house for a moment. I entered the house, and after a few minutes, he quietly handed me something he had fetched. This is a banking card, isn't it? What my father-in-law handed me was a banking card in my name. Soon after we got married and started living together, my father-in-law had asked me to open an account, as he knew someone who worked at a local bank. Remember the troubles that started as soon as we moved in together? That's why I thought it would be troublesome if something happened, so I made this. I knew right away when we got married that he was doing something when I wasn't around. I warned him several times, and I was fooled by his act of pretending to reflect on his actions. So I want you to accept this money. Please consider it as my way of making amends. When I sneakily checked and there was about $200,000 in the account, I was shocked. I owe you nothing but gratitude, father-in-law. While I was busy with work, I think I should make up for the fact that I hurt Olivia during that time. It's a token of my gratitude for always making delicious meals for us. Thank you so much. The others used to brag about it, but actually before Olivia came, I was doing most of the housework. It's also my fault for spoiling the family. Please forgive me. I can't believe it. Also, this money is what Olivia should receive for her hard work doing housework for the past 5 years and 6 months. It's your salary for housework. I just calculated the hourly wage as $12 on my own, but I hope that's okay. I was moved by the warmth of another person, and it felt so comforting that I could only nod through my tears. If you can't afford it, then pay me. I'm done working for free. I don't care how much you guys struggle. You need to experience even more hardship. Don't say such harsh things. Please, I beg you, it was my fault. Forgive me, I'll do anything. Then, my mother-in-law Lola started sobbing on the other end of the phone. I was wrong, I'm sorry. I was just enamored with a drama I watched recently. It wasn't my true feelings. I'm sorry too, I'll help with the housework from now on. I won't mistreat you. Let's get along as sisters. Even after hearing the voices of the 3 people experiencing hell, I was unmoved, because I felt that they still had the energy to plead. Nick said a moment ago that he'd do anything. Oh, of course I'll do anything too. Yes, I'll do anything, even the house chores. I'll help too if you need anything, just tell us. Thank you. Then please pay the compensation from the divorce trial and return the $1,500 as agreed. What? That's all I'm asking from you. Well then, goodbye. With that, I hung up the phone and blocked all their contacts. A few days later, I heard that Nick's mother-in-law and Lola moved out of the house. Apparently, they were unable to pay off their mortgage, and their house is put up for auction. By the way, father-in-law, after divorcing mother-in-law, moved to a suburban house and is said to be enjoying his single life. And the 3 who were kicked out of the house are now living together in a cramped apartment, working hard to pay the compensation and refund from the divorce trial that I demanded. They agreed to pay in installments, so while it will just be a monetary relationship from here on, I've told them I'll sue if they fall behind on payments. They're risking their lives. Nick hasn't let his company find out about the incident and hasn't quit yet, but after the divorce and looking disheveled, occasionally smelling like trash, his coworkers are starting to steer clear of him. The office atmosphere is the worst for him. And me, I'm currently working at the company where father-in-law is employed. Utilizing my skills from my previous job, I've been entrusted with the role of a manager in the general affairs and HR department. It's a fulfilling job, and I want to keep pushing myself. By the way, of the $200,000, I used about $7,000 for starting my new life, but I haven't touched the rest. I plan to keep this as an emergency money in case father-in-law ever needs help.